The rain hammered against the concrete like bullets as Amara Washington stumbled down the sidewalk outside the Grandview Hotel. Her scrubs clung to her exhausted body, soaked through from the storm that had caught her between her second and third job of the day. 26 hours without sleep. 3 jobs running back to back. Her stomach cramped from hunger, having skipped meals again to save money for her mother's medication. Each step felt like walking through quicksand. The world tilted sideways as she gripped the cold brick wall of the hotel, fighting to stay upright. Her vision blurred. The expensive cars parked outside the luxury establishment seemed to mock her struggle. Rich people inside, warm and fed, while she could barely afford bus fare home. The crushing weight of debt pressed down on her chest like a concrete slab. $60,000 in medical bills. Her mother's cancer treatment costs climbing every day. The eviction notice crumpled in her bag from this morning. No family left to help. No friends who could understand what it felt like to choose between medicine and food, between rent and hope. Her knees buckled. The sidewalk rushed up to meet her as everything went black. Her body hit the wet pavement with a sickening thud, her purse spilling its meager contents across the rain-soaked concrete. A few crumpled dollar bills, an empty medicine bottle, and a photo of her smiling mother from before the cancer stole her strength. Amara's beautiful dark skin had turned ashen, her full lips pale from exhaustion and malnutrition. Her long braids fanned out around her head like a halo as she lay motionless in the rain. The water mixed with tears she hadn't even realized she'd been crying, washing away the last of her dignity as passers-by stepped around her collapsed form without stopping. This was it. After fighting so hard, after sacrificing everything, her body had finally given up. 26 years old and dying alone on a sidewalk like trash nobody wanted to touch. But then, through the haze of unconsciousness, she felt small warm hands touching her face. "Lady, wake up. Please wake up." The voice belonged to an angel. Or maybe she was already dead. 5-year-old Grace Mitchell had been looking out the window of her father's penthouse suite when she saw the woman fall. While her nanny was distracted by a phone call, Grace had slipped out of the room and taken the elevator down to the lobby. Security knew her as the boss's daughter, so no one stopped her as she pushed through the revolving door into the storm. Grace knelt beside Amara in her pink dress and white shoes, now soaked through but not caring about the rain or her ruined clothes. Her small hands patted Amara's cheeks gently, her blue eyes filled with tears at seeing someone hurt. "Don't die, lady. Please don't die," Grace whispered, her tiny voice breaking with emotion. She'd never seen her own mother, who had died when she was a baby, but something deep in her heart told her this beautiful woman was important, special, someone who needed saving. Grace pulled off her little pink jacket and placed it over Amara's chest, trying to keep her warm. Then she stood up and screamed as loud as her small lungs could manage. "Help. Somebody help her." Hotel guests walking by stopped and stared, but Grace didn't care about the attention. She only cared about the woman who looked like a princess from her storybooks, lying still and cold on the ground. "Daddy!" Grace screamed toward the hotel windows high above. "Daddy, help. Are you feeling the same heartbreak watching little Grace try to save this dying woman? Does this story pull at your heartstrings like it does mine? If this opening has you on the edge of your seat wanting to know what happens next, please subscribe and let me know in the comments what you think will happen when Grace's billionaire father sees this woman's face. James Mitchell burst through the hotel's revolving door like a man possessed. His $1,000 suit was forgotten as he ran through the pounding rain toward his daughter's voice. When he saw Grace kneeling beside a collapsed woman on the sidewalk, his heart nearly stopped beating. "Grace." He reached them in seconds, dropping to his knees on the wet concrete without thought for his expensive clothes. "What happened? Are you hurt?" "The pretty lady fell down, Daddy. She won't wake up." Grace's small hand clutched his sleeve, her eyes wide with fear and concern. "I tried to wake her up, but she's sleeping too hard." James looked down at the unconscious woman for the first time, and the world tilted off its axis. Those cheekbones. That perfect nose. The curve of her lips that he'd kissed 1,000 times in his dreams over the past 10 years. "Amara," he breathed, the name falling from his lips like a prayer. It was impossible. Amara Washington, the love of his life who had vanished from his world without explanation during their senior year of college. The woman he'd searched for with private investigators for 3 years before finally giving up hope. The woman whose memory had haunted every relationship since, making it impossible for him to love anyone else completely. But here she was, lying unconscious on a sidewalk, her beautiful face gaunt with exhaustion and stress. Her clothes were cheap scrubs, worn thin from too many washings. Her hands were rough from hard work, No longer the soft student hands he remembered. What had happened to her? Where had she been all these years? Do you know her, Daddy? Grace asked, seeing the recognition in his eyes. Yes, baby. I know her. James scooped Amara into his arms, surprised by how light she felt. Too light. When had she gotten so thin? We need to get her to a hospital right now. James carried Amara toward his waiting car, Grace running beside him. His driver jumped out to open the door, having witnessed the scene through the rain-streaked windshield. St. Mary's Hospital, and don't spare the horses, James commanded as he settled Amara across his lap in the back seat, Grace pressing close to his side. During the ride he studied every detail of her face. She was still the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen, but there were new lines around her eyes. Stress lines. Pain lines. Her hands were calloused, her nails short and practical. Whatever life she'd been living, it had been hard. Is the pretty lady going to be okay? Grace whispered, reaching out to touch Amara's hand. She's going to be fine, sweetheart. Daddy's going to make sure of it. The words came out as a vow. Whatever had brought Amara back into his life, he wasn't going to let her slip away again. Not this time. At the hospital, James carried Amara through the emergency room doors, Grace holding tight to his hand. The medical staff moved quickly when they saw who was bringing in the patient. James Mitchell's donations had built an entire wing of this hospital. I want your best doctors on her case, James told the head of emergency medicine. Spare no expense. Run every test. I want to know exactly what's wrong and how to fix it. Of course, Mr. Mitchell. We'll take excellent care of her. As they wheeled Amara into a treatment room, James felt Grace tug on his sleeve. Daddy, why does seeing the pretty lady make you look happy and sad at the same time? James knelt down to meet his daughter's eyes. How could he explain that the woman Grace had saved was the one person who could make their family complete? The missing piece he'd been searching for without even realizing it. Sometimes, baby, when we find something precious that we lost a long time ago, it makes us feel lots of different things all at once. Like when I found my teddy bear in the couch cushions after I thought he was gone forever? Exactly like that, James smiled, smoothing Grace's damp hair. But even more special. As they waited for news, James made phone calls to ensure Amara would receive the best possible care. He called his personal physician, arranged for a private room, and instructed his assistant to clear his schedule for the foreseeable future. Nothing else mattered now except the woman who had just walked back into his life through the actions of his remarkable little daughter. After 2 hours, Dr. Peterson emerged from the treatment area with a concerned expression. Mr. Mitchell? The young woman is stable, but I'm afraid she's suffering from severe exhaustion and malnutrition. When did she last eat a proper meal? I don't know, James admitted. I haven't seen her in 10 years. Well, her body was shutting down from lack of proper nutrition and rest. She's also dehydrated. We're giving her 4 fluids and nutrients now. She should wake up within the next few hours. Can we see her? Of course. Room 314. James carried Grace up to the private room he'd arranged, complete with a comfortable couch and windows overlooking the city. Amara lay in the hospital bed, and 4 in her arm, looking small and fragile against the white sheets. Grace climbed onto the chair beside the bed and took Amara's hand in both of her small ones. I'm going to stay with her until she wakes up, Grace declared with the fierce determination only a 5-year-old could possess. We both are, James agreed, settling into the chair on the other side of the bed. As the rain continued to beat against the windows, James watched over the woman he'd never stopped loving and the daughter who had brought them back together. Amara's eyes fluttered open to the soft beeping of medical monitors and the gentle weight of a small hand holding hers. For a moment she thought she was dreaming. The room was too nice, too bright, too clean to be real. Private room, fresh flowers, expensive-looking furniture. Then she saw the little girl with blonde curls and bright blue eyes sitting beside her bed, and her heart squeezed with recognition. You're awake. Grace bounced in her chair with excitement. I stayed with you all night and all morning. Daddy said you were sleeping because you were really, really tired. Daddy? Amara's voice came out as a whisper, her throat dry from the medications. He's getting coffee. Do you want some water? The nice nurse showed me how to help you drink with this bendy straw. Before Amara could respond, the door opened and time stopped completely. James Mitchell walked into the room carrying 2 coffee cups and a juice box, looking exactly like the man she'd fallen in love with 10 years ago, just more polished. His dark hair was styled perfectly, his suit probably cost more than she made in a month, and his green eyes were just as kind as she remembered. James, she breathed, and his name on her lips made his heart race just like it used to. Hello, Amara. He set down the drinks and moved to her bedside, his presence filling the room with warmth. How are you feeling? Confused. This room, the care. I can't afford any of this. It's taken care of. James, no. I can't accept. Yes, you can. His voice was gentle but firm. Grace found you collapsed on the street. You were dying, Amara. Literally dying. Do you really think I'm going to argue about hospital bills when my daughter saved your life? Amara looked at Grace, who was beaming with pride at being called a lifesaver. I couldn't wake you up, but I stayed with you in the rain until Daddy came. Are you feeling better now? You look prettier when your eyes are open. Despite everything, Amara smiled. This child was absolutely precious. Thank you for staying with me, Grace. You're very brave. Daddy says you're special to him from before I was born. Is that true? Amara met James's eyes over Grace's head, seeing all the questions there that matched her own. Your daddy and I knew each other a long time ago when we were in school. Like really good friends? Something like that, Amara said softly. Grace seemed satisfied with this answer and launched into a detailed account of everything the doctors had done, complete with dramatic reenactments of the nurses taking Amara's blood pressure. Later, when Grace was napping on the couch, James pulled his chair closer to Amara's bed. 10 years, Amara. 10 years I looked for you. Where did you go? The pain in his voice broke her heart all over again. She'd thought leaving would be easier for both of them, but clearly she'd been wrong. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, James. That's not what I asked. Where did you go? Why did you disappear without a word? Amara closed her eyes, the shame of those days washing over her again. My father lost his job and then he got sick. The medical bills piled up. We lost the house, everything. I had to drop out of school to work and take care of them. I would have helped. You know I would have helped. That's exactly why I couldn't tell you. She opened her eyes to meet his gaze. You came from this world of wealth and privilege. I didn't want to be your charity case. I didn't want you to feel obligated to save me and my family. Obligated? James's voice cracked with emotion. Amara, I loved you. I was going to propose after graduation. The words hit her like a physical blow. What? I had the ring picked out. I was planning this whole elaborate proposal for your birthday. Then one day you were just gone. Your roommate said you'd transferred schools, but she wouldn't tell me where. Amara felt tears streaming down her face. James, I didn't know. I thought you'd be relieved. Your parents never approved of me. I didn't care what they thought. I only cared about you. They sat in silence for a long moment, both processing the magnitude of the misunderstanding that had shaped the last 10 years of their lives. Is that why you became a nurse? James asked eventually. I wanted to help people the way I couldn't help my father. Her voice was barely a whisper. He died 2 years after I left school. Then it was just me and Mom. And now your mother is sick. It wasn't a question. James had clearly done his research while she was unconscious. Cancer, Amara confirmed. Stage 3. The treatments are expensive, and insurance only covers so much. That's why I was working 3 jobs. I can't accept your help, James. Not with the medical bills, not with anything. It's too much. Actually, you can accept it. And you will. His tone brooked no argument. Because Grace has decided you're staying in our lives, and what Grace wants, Grace gets. As if summoned by the mention of her name, Grace stirred on the couch and padded over to the bed. Are you talking about me? I heard my name. Daddy was just telling me how wonderful you are, Amara said, reaching out to smooth Grace's hair. I told Daddy that you should come live with us when you get out of the hospital. We have lots of rooms and I could show you my dollhouse and my books. Do you like to read stories? I love stories, Amara said, her heart melting. Then it settled. You'll stay with us until you're completely better. James's tone made it clear this wasn't a suggestion. Grace has spoken, and Grace's word is law in the Mitchell household. I couldn't impose. It's not imposing if you're invited, Grace said with 5-year-old logic. Besides, Daddy needs someone to help him take care of me. He tries really hard, but he doesn't know how to braid hair or make proper tea parties. James laughed. She's got me there. I'm terrible at tea parties. Looking at the two of them, Amara felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could allow herself to be helped. To be cared for. To be part of something beautiful again. Okay, she whispered. Okay. James leaned forward. I'll accept your help. All of it. Thank you. The smile that spread across his face was brighter than all the sunshine she'd missed during her years of struggle. Good, Grace said, clapping her hands. Now we can be a real family. 3 days later, Amara found herself standing in the marble foyer of James's penthouse, feeling completely out of place in her simple jeans and sweater. The space was bigger than her entire apartment building, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city skyline. "This is where I live," Grace announced proudly, taking Amara's hand to lead her on a tour. "Daddy had the guest room made special for you. Come see." The guest suite was larger than any apartment Amara had ever lived in, complete with a sitting area, walk-in closet, and bathroom with a soaking tub that looked like it belonged in a luxury spa. Fresh flowers sat on the dresser, and the bed was covered in the softest linens she'd ever felt. "Do you like it?" Grace asked anxiously. "Daddy let me pick the flowers. I chose the pink ones because they're happy colors." "It's absolutely beautiful, Grace. Thank you for thinking of the flowers. And look." Grace ran to the closet and threw open the doors. "Daddy had people bring clothes for you. He said your other clothes were too small because you weren't eating enough food to keep your body healthy." Inside hung a carefully curated wardrobe in Amara's exact size. Casual clothes, professional attire, even elegant dresses. Everything was tasteful and expensive but not flashy. James had remembered her style preferences perfectly. "This is too much," Amara murmured, but Grace was already pulling out a soft blue sweater. "Daddy says it's not too much if it makes people feel good. And he wants you to feel good here. So do I." That evening at dinner, Amara met Mrs. Chin, the housekeeper and nanny who had been part of James's household since Grace was born. "Mr. Mitchell spoke very highly of you," Mrs. Chin said warmly as she served a meal that probably cost more than Amara used to spend on groceries in a month. Grace hasn't stopped talking about her new friend. "I'm not very good at accepting help," Amara admitted. "The best people never are," James said from across the table. "But Grace needs a female influence in her life. Mrs. Chin does a wonderful job, but Grace has been asking for a mommy figure for months now. I don't want to overstep." "You're not overstepping anything. Grace asked for this." As if to prove his point, Grace scooted her chair closer to Amara's. "Can you help me with my reading homework after dinner? Mrs. Chin helps me, but Daddy said you're extra smart because you went to college. I'd love to help with your homework." After dinner, Amara found herself curled up on Grace's bed, listening to the little girl read a story about a princess who saved a kingdom. Grace's reading skills were advanced for her age, but she still stumbled over bigger words. "You're doing great," Amara encouraged. "When I was learning to read, I used to sound out the hard words letter by letter. Like this? Beautiful. Beautiful. Perfect." James appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame with a soft smile on his face. "Time for bed, princess. But we're not done with the story. Tomorrow night," he promised. "Amara needs her rest too." As James tucked Grace into bed, Amara started to leave, but Grace called out to her. "Amara? Will you still be here when I wake up?" The vulnerability in the child's voice broke Amara's heart. How many people had come and gone from Grace's life? "I'll be here," she promised. "For how long?" Amara looked at James, seeing the same question in his eyes. "For as long as you want me here." Grace's smile could have powered the entire city. "I want you here forever and ever." Later that night, Amara stood on the balcony of her room, looking out at the city lights. The contrast between this luxury and her life just days before was almost overwhelming. Having second thoughts? She turned to find James approaching with 2 cups of tea. "Every few minutes," she admitted, accepting the warm cup gratefully. "About staying here or about letting me help?" "Both. This feels like a fairy tale, James. And fairy tales aren't real. Maybe some are." He moved to stand beside her at the railing. "Grace thinks you're magic. She's never taken to anyone the way she's taken to you. She's an incredible child. You've done an amazing job raising her. I've done my best, but I always felt like she was missing something important. A mother's love." "What happened to her mother?" James was quiet for a long moment. "Rebecca died in childbirth. We weren't married, weren't even really together anymore by then. She'd moved on, was engaged to someone else. But when she found out she was pregnant, she came to me. Said the baby was mine. That must have been difficult. Rebecca didn't want the baby. She was planning to give it up for adoption. But when Grace was born..." His voice softened with memory. "She was so perfect, so tiny and innocent. Rebecca held her for maybe 10 minutes before the complications started. Her last words to me were, 'Take care of our little angel.' I'm sorry. I'm not. Grace is the best thing that ever happened to me. But I've always wondered what it would be like for her to have a mother who chose to love her." The implication in his words made Amara's heart race. James? I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give, he said quickly. I just want you to know that what's growing between you and Grace, it's special. She's already chosen you as her person. And what about you? The question slipped out before she could stop it. James set down his tea and turned to face her fully. I chose you 10 years ago, Amara. That never changed. He reached up to cup her face gently, his thumb tracing across her cheekbone the way he used to when they were young and the world was full of possibilities. I love you, he said simply. I never stopped loving you. I never even slowed down. James? Her voice was a whisper. You don't have to say anything back. Not yet. Just, let me take care of you. Let me give you and your mother the life you deserve. Let Grace have the mother she's been dreaming of. Standing there in his arms, looking into eyes that had never stopped seeing her as precious, Amara felt the last of her resistance crumble. Okay, she breathed. Okay. I love you too. I never stopped either. When he kissed her, soft and sweet under the starlight, it felt like coming home after a decade of being lost in the wilderness. 2 weeks into her stay at the penthouse, Amara had settled into a routine that felt surprisingly natural. Mornings were spent helping Grace get ready for school. Afternoons involved either visiting her mother at the rehabilitation center James had arranged or working at the medical foundation he'd offered her a position with. The job was perfect for her background and interests. Coordinating care for underprivileged patients, ensuring they received the same quality treatment regardless of their ability to pay. It was meaningful work that let her help people in situations similar to her own past struggles. Mom, you look so much better, Amara said during her afternoon visit. The private room was bright and comfortable, with round-the-clock nursing care and access to the best oncologists in the city. Patricia Washington smiled from her bed, color having returned to her cheeks since starting the advanced treatments. I feel human again for the first time in months. This James of yours, he's something special. He's not mine, Mom. Child, please. That man moved heaven and earth to make sure I got the best care possible. He's flying in specialists from other countries for a second opinion on my treatment. If that's not love, I don't know what is. It's complicated. Love always is. But complexity doesn't make it less real. Patricia reached for her daughter's hand. You know what I regret most about these past few years? What? Watching you sacrifice your entire life for me. You were so young when your father got sick, and instead of living your 20s like you should have, you became a caretaker. Then when I got sick, you did it all over again. Mom, you're my family. That's what family does. Family also wants each other to be happy, to be loved, to have children and joy and all the beautiful things life offers. Patricia squeezed Amara's hand. That little girl adores you. And her father. When he looks at you, I see the kind of love that comes once in a lifetime. I'm scared, Amara admitted. What if I'm not good enough for their world? What if I mess this up? Honey, you survived things that would have broken most people. You worked yourself nearly to death trying to take care of everyone else. If you can do that, you can certainly handle being loved by good people. That evening, Amara arrived home to find Grace in the living room with her homework spread across the coffee table, looking frustrated. What's wrong, sweetheart? I have to write about my family for school, but I don't know what to write. Amara sat down beside her. Tell me what you're thinking. Well, I have Daddy and Mrs. Chen and my grandparents visit sometimes. But all my friends at school have moms. And I want to write about you, but I don't know if you count as family yet. The innocent question pierced straight through Amara's heart. What do you want to write? I want to write that my family is Daddy and me and you, and that you take care of me and read me stories and help me with my hair. But is that okay? Are we really family? Before Amara could answer, James appeared in the doorway, home from work earlier than usual. What are we talking about? Grace is writing about family for school and she has some questions. James loosened his tie and sat down on Grace's other side. What kind of questions, Princess? Is Amara part of our family now? Can I write about her in my homework? James looked at Amara over Grace's head, his expression serious. What do you think, Grace? What makes someone family? When they love you and take care of you and want to be with you all the time. When they make you feel safe and happy. And does Amara do those things for you? Yes. She braids my hair and makes funny voices when she reads stories, and she always listens when I talk about school. And she gives the best hugs. Then what do you think? Grace turned to look at Amara with hopeful eyes. I think you're my family. I think you're supposed to be my mommy. The simple statement hung in the air like a blessing. I think you're my family too, Amara whispered, pulling Grace into a hug. I love you so much, sweet girl. So I can write about you in my homework? You can write about me. Grace cheered and immediately started scribbling on her paper with renewed enthusiasm. Later that night, after Grace was asleep, Amara found James in his study reviewing contracts. "Thank you for today," she said from the doorway. "For what?" "For letting Grace claim me as family. For not making it complicated." James set aside his papers and pulled her into the room, closing the door behind her. "Amara, I need you to understand something. This isn't temporary for me. This isn't some extended charity project or an attempt to recapture the past." He cupped her face in his hands, his green eyes intense with emotion. "I want you to be Grace's mother. Legally, officially, permanently. I want us to be a family in every sense of the word." "James? I know it's fast. I know we're still finding our way back to each other. But Grace needs you and I can't imagine my life without you in it anymore." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to marry you. Not today, not next week, but someday soon. I want Grace to have the mother she deserves, and I want to have the woman I've loved for 10 years as my wife." Amara felt tears streaming down her cheeks. "I want that too. More than anything." Yeah. But can we take it one day at a time? I'm still learning how to be part of this world, how to be the person Grace needs me to be." "We have all the time in the world," James assured her, sealing the promise with a kiss that tasted like forever. "Have you ever wondered what it feels like to watch someone you care about find their perfect place in the world? This story is getting close to the moment that will change everything for our little family. If you're invested in seeing Grace finally get the mother she's been dreaming of, please subscribe and tell me in the comments if you think Amara is ready to take that next step." Grace woke up on Saturday morning with a fever and a cough that made her sound like a seal. By afternoon, her temperature had spiked to 102 degrees, and she was miserable despite the children's medication James had given her. "I want Amara," Grace whimpered from her bed, pushing away the thermometer Mrs. Chen was trying to use. "She's visiting her mother at the hospital, Princess. She'll be home soon." "I want her now," Grace cried, tears streaming down her flushed cheeks. "I don't feel good, and Amara makes everything better." James felt helpless watching his daughter suffer. She'd been sick before, but never had she been so specific about wanting comfort from someone who wasn't him. It was clear that Amara had become Grace's primary source of emotional security. When Amara walked through the front door 20 minutes later, she immediately sensed the tension in the household. "What's wrong?" "Grace has a fever and she's been asking for you," James explained, running his hands through his hair in frustration. "She won't let Mrs. Chin take her temperature, won't drink fluids, won't do anything except cry for you." "Where is she?" "In her room." Amara hurried upstairs to find Grace curled up in a ball, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit and sobbing. "Hey, sweetheart," Amara said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I heard you don't feel good." Grace immediately rolled toward her, reaching out with grabby hands. "Amara, my throat hurts and my head feels fuzzy and I'm cold but also hot." "Oh, my poor baby girl." Amara gathered Grace into her lap, feeling the heat radiating from her small body. "Let's see if we can make you feel better." Within minutes, Amara had coaxed Grace into drinking some water, taking her temperature without protest, and even eating a few spoonfuls of soup. She ran a lukewarm bath to help bring down the fever, then settled into the rocking chair in Grace's room with the little girl wrapped in soft blankets. "Tell me a story," Grace requested, her voice hoarse from coughing. "What kind of story?" "About a little girl who finds her mommy." Amara's heart clenched, but she began weaving a tale about a princess who lived in a tall castle with her loving daddy and their kind servants. The princess was happy but always felt like something was missing. One day, Amara continued, rocking gently as Grace's breathing began to even out, the princess was looking out her window when she saw someone who needed help. Without thinking about her own safety, the brave little princess ran outside to help the person, even though it was raining and cold. "Like when I found you," Grace murmured against Amara's chest. "Just like that." And when the princess helped the person, something magical happened. The person turned out to be exactly who the princess had been waiting for her whole life. Someone who would love her and take care of her and never ever leave. Her mommy? Her mommy. And they lived happily ever after? They lived happily ever after. Grace was quiet for so long that Amara thought she'd fallen asleep. Then the little girl tilted her head back to look at her with serious blue eyes. "Amara? Are you going to be my real mommy? Not just in stories but for real?" The question was so innocent, so hopeful, that Amara felt her heart break and heal at the same time. "Do you want me to be your real mommy?" "More than anything in the whole world. I asked God for a mommy every night before you came, and He sent you to me." Daddy says when God answers prayers, we should be grateful and hold on tight. Your daddy is a very smart man. So will you? Will you be my real mommy? Amara looked down at this precious child who had saved her life in more ways than one. Grace had given her purpose, love, and a future she'd never dared to dream of. Yes, sweetheart. I'll be your real mommy. Forever and always? Forever and always. Grace's smile was radiant despite her fever. I'm going to tell everyone at school that I finally got my mommy, and she's the most beautiful and nice mommy in the whole world. By the time James checked on them an hour later, Grace was sleeping peacefully in Amara's arms, her fever finally starting to break. How did you do that? He whispered from the doorway. She was inconsolable before you got here. She needed her mom, Amara said simply. And what did you need? To be needed by her. James moved into the room, kneeling beside the rocking chair to stroke Grace's hair. She asked me to be her real mother, Amara said quietly. I told her yes. How do you feel about that? Terrified and excited and grateful all at the same time. Amara looked up at him. James, I love her so much it scares me sometimes. I never knew I could feel this protective of another person. That's what being a parent feels like every single day. Is it always this intense? Only when you're doing it right. Grace stirred in Amara's arms, blinking up at them with sleepy eyes. Daddy, guess what? Amara said yes to being my real mommy. I heard, princess. How do you feel about that? Like the luckiest girl in the whole world. Grace snuggled deeper into Amara's embrace. Now we're a real family just like I always wanted. Just like we all always wanted, James corrected softly. As Amara continued rocking Grace back to sleep, James watched the two most important people in his world together and felt a completeness he'd never experienced before. His daughter finally had the mother she deserved, and the woman he loved was finally home where she belonged. The call came on a Tuesday morning while Amara was helping Grace get ready for school. James answered his phone with his usual professional greeting, but his expression quickly darkened. I see. And when is this meeting scheduled? He listened for a moment longer. Fine. I'll be there. What's wrong? Amara asked as he hung up. Board meeting this afternoon. Apparently, some of the members have concerns about my personal life affecting company business. Grace looked up from her breakfast, sensing the tension. Is everything okay, Daddy? Everything's fine, princess. Just some boring grown-up business. But Amara could see the worry in James's eyes. After Grace left for school, he explained the situation more fully. 3 board members have been asking questions about my relationship with you. About whether I'm making sound business decisions or if I'm being influenced by emotions. Are they right to be concerned? Amara asked, her stomach knotting with anxiety. Absolutely not. But they don't see it that way. James loosened his tie, a gesture Amara had learned meant he was truly stressed. They think I'm being reckless with company resources by funding your mother's treatment and offering you the position at the foundation. Then maybe I should step back. I don't want to cause problems for you. No. His response was immediate and firm. I won't let narrow-minded people dictate my personal life or my business decisions. Both were made with sound judgment. James, I don't want to be the reason you lose everything you've worked for. You won't be. But I need you to trust me to handle this. The board meeting lasted 3 hours. Amara spent that time at the foundation office trying to focus on work but failing miserably. When James finally called, his voice was tight with controlled anger. How did it go? About as well as expected. Richard Sterling led the charge, questioning everything from your qualifications to whether I'm compromising the company's reputation by being involved with someone from a different background. Amara closed her eyes, the familiar shame washing over her. What did you tell them? I told them that Amara Washington is one of the most dedicated and competent people I've ever worked with. That her background in healthcare and her personal experience with the struggles our foundation addresses make her invaluable to our mission. And I also told them that my personal life is not subject to board approval. Sterling pushed back pretty hard, suggesting that someone with your financial history might be a liability. My financial history? Amara's voice was barely a whisper. He had someone run a credit check and background investigation. He knows about the medical debt, the eviction notices, everything. Amara felt sick. James, I'm so sorry. I never wanted my problems to become your problems. Your past is not a problem, Amara. It's proof of your character. You worked yourself nearly to death trying to take care of your family. That's not something to be ashamed of. But it is affecting your business. Only because some people can't see past their own prejudices. That evening, James called an emergency board meeting for the following week. He spent the next several days working with his legal team and loyal board members to address the concerns that had been raised. "I want you at that meeting," he told Amara over dinner. "James, I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not?" "Because I'll make things worse. These people look at me and see everything they think is wrong with your judgment." Grace looked up from her chicken nuggets, sensing the adult's distress. "Are the mean people trying to hurt our family?" "No one is going to hurt our family, Princess," James assured her. "Sometimes adults disagree about things, but it doesn't mean anyone gets hurt." "But you and Amara look sad." "We're just working through some challenges," Amara explained. "Like when you have trouble with a math problem at school but you keep trying until you figure it out. And then you feel really good when you solve it?" "Exactly." After Grace went to bed, James found Amara standing at the window in her room, staring out at the city lights. "Talk to me," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Maybe they're right, James. Maybe I am a liability. Maybe you'd be better off with someone who fits into your world." "Don't." His voice was sharp. "Don't let them make you doubt what we have." "But what if loving me costs you everything you've built?" James turned her around to face him, his hands framing her face. "Listen to me very carefully. I built this company to create something meaningful, something that would make a difference in the world. But none of it matters if I don't have you and Grace to share it with. James? I would walk away from every dollar, every board seat, every business deal before I'd walk away from you. Do you understand that?" "You can't mean that." "I absolutely mean that. Money can be earned again. Companies can be rebuilt. But what we have, what Grace has with you, that's irreplaceable." He kissed her forehead gently. "Besides, I have a plan." "What kind of plan?" "The kind that's going to show everyone exactly who you are and why they'd be lucky to have you associated with this company." The following week, Amara walked into the boardroom wearing one of the elegant suits James had bought her, her head held high despite her racing heart. The room was intimidating, filled with powerful people in expensive clothes who looked at her with everything from curiosity to barely concealed hostility. Richard Sterling, a man in his 60s with cold blue eyes, sat at the far end of the table looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. James stood at the head of the table, commanding the room with his presence. "Ladies and gentlemen, I've asked Amara Washington to join us today so you can hear directly from her about her qualifications and her vision for the medical foundation." For the next hour, Amara presented a detailed plan for expanding the foundation's reach, complete with cost-benefit analyses and projected outcomes. She spoke about the patients she'd worked with, the systemic problems in healthcare accessibility, and specific programs that could make a real difference. She also spoke about her own experience, not with shame but with dignity. "I know what it feels like to choose between medication and food, between rent and medical care. I know the desperation of watching someone you love suffer while bureaucracy and financial barriers prevent them from getting help. That experience doesn't make me a liability to this organization. It makes me the perfect person to ensure our resources reach the people who need them most." When she finished, the room was quiet. Even Sterling looked thoughtful. "Miss Washington," one of the older board members said finally, "your presentation is quite impressive. But there are concerns about the rapid pace of these changes, the resources being allocated. All of which have been approved through proper channels and show measurable positive outcomes," James interjected. "Amara's programs have already helped over 200 families in just 6 weeks. Patient satisfaction scores are the highest we've ever recorded." The meeting continued for another hour, but the tone had shifted. By the end, even some of Sterling's allies were asking thoughtful questions about expanding Amara's initiatives. As they were leaving, Sterling approached Amara privately. "Miss Washington, I owe you an apology. I made assumptions about your motivations and qualifications that were unfair and uninformed. Thank you for saying that, Mr. Sterling. James is lucky to have found someone who shares his vision for making a real difference in the world." That evening at home, James swept Amara into his arms the moment they walked through the door. "I'm so proud of you," he said, spinning her around. "You were absolutely brilliant." "We did it?" Amara asked, still hardly believing it was over. "We did it." Sterling called this afternoon to formally withdraw his objections and offer his full support for the foundation's expansion. Grace came running from the living room where she'd been doing homework with Mrs. Chen. "Did you beat the mean people?" she asked excitedly. "We showed them how amazing Amara is," James explained. "And now they understand that she's exactly where she belongs. With us." "With us," James agreed, pulling both his girls into a group hug. That night, as they tucked Grace into bed, She looked up at them with a serious expression. I'm glad the mean people aren't trying to take Amara away anymore. No one is ever going to take me away from you, Amara promised. We're family now, remember? Forever and always? Forever and always. Spring arrived early that year, painting the city in soft pastels and filling the penthouse with warm sunlight. Amara had been living with James and Grace for 3 months, and the rhythm of their life together had become as natural as breathing. Saturday mornings were reserved for family adventures. This particular weekend found them at the Central Park Zoo, watching Grace feed the seals while James captured every moment on his phone. She's going to be such a heartbreaker when she grows up, Amara observed, laughing as Grace made faces at the seals, who seemed to be making faces back. Don't remind me, James groaned. I'm not ready to think about boys yet. You have at least 8 years before you need to worry about that. 8 years to teach her that no boy will ever be good enough for my princess. Amara bumped his shoulder playfully. You know you're going to have to let her date eventually. Says who? Says every parenting book ever written. I didn't agree to read those books when I became a father. Their playful banter was interrupted by Grace running back to them, bouncing with excitement. Can we go see the penguins next? And then the carousel? And then can we get ice cream even though it's not lunchtime yet? Slow down, sweetheart, Amara laughed, smoothing Grace's wind-blown hair. We have all day. We can do everything you want to do. Really? Even ice cream before lunch? James and Amara exchanged a look. In the early days, James would have worried about nutrition and schedules. Now he was learning that some of the best family memories came from breaking rules. Ice cream before lunch it is, he declared, earning a cheer from Grace and a warm smile from Amara. Later that afternoon, they spread a blanket in the park for an impromptu picnic. Grace had fallen asleep between them, exhausted from their adventures, her head pillowed on Amara's lap. Look at her, James said softly, stroking his daughter's hair. I've never seen her this happy. She's easy to love, Amara replied, gently tracing patterns on Grace's back to keep her sleeping peacefully. So are you. The simple statement hung between them, weighted with meaning. Over the past months, they'd been rebuilding their relationship carefully, taking things slow for Grace's sake and their own emotional protection. James? I know we agreed to take things one day at a time, he said, shifting to face her more fully. But I need you to know something. What? This isn't temporary for me. The way I feel about you, the way Grace has blossomed with you in our lives, this is permanent in my heart. I'm not going anywhere and I'm hoping you're not either. Amara looked down at the sleeping child in her lap, then back at the man who had given her a second chance at everything she'd ever wanted. I'm not going anywhere, she promised. This is my family now. Good, he said, leaning over to kiss her forehead. Because I have something to show you when we get home. That evening, after Grace was tucked into bed with stories and songs, James led Amara to his study. Close your eyes, he instructed. James, what are you up to? Trust me. She closed her eyes and let him guide her across the room. When he told her to open them, she gasped. On his desk sat an architectural model of a beautiful house, complete with tiny furniture and landscaping. It was elegant but warm, clearly designed for a family. What is this? Our house, James said simply. I had it designed based on everything you and Grace have mentioned wanting. There's a reading nook in the living room for story time, a huge kitchen for family dinners, and a garden where Grace can plant flowers. Amara stared at the model, her heart racing. James, this is incredible, but I can't let you buy a house for me. I'm not buying it for you. I'm buying it for us. For our family. He moved to stand behind her, his hands resting on her shoulders. The penthouse is beautiful, but it's not really a home. This would be ours, all of ours. But the expense is worth it for the life we're building together. He turned her around to face him. Amara, I want to wake up every morning in a house we chose together. I want Grace to have a backyard where she can play and friends can come over. I want us to have a place that's completely ours. Looking at the model, Amara could picture it all. Grace running through the garden, family dinners in the spacious kitchen, quiet evenings in the reading nook. It was everything she dreamed of but never thought she deserved. It's perfect, she whispered. So you'll let me do this? You'll let me build us a home? Yes, she said, the word coming out as barely a breath. Yes, I want that. James's smile was radiant. Construction starts next month. We should be able to move in by fall. That fast? When you have the right connections and unlimited resources, things move quickly. He pulled her into his arms. Besides, I'm eager to start the next chapter of our lives. What does the next chapter look like? Marriage, he said without hesitation. More children if you want them. Growing old together while watching Grace become the amazing woman I know she'll be. Amara felt tears prick her eyes. You want more children? With you? I want everything. A house full of kids who look like you and have your kind heart. And if I can't have more children? Then Grace will be enough. She'll always be enough. But if we're blessed with more little ones, that would make me the happiest man alive. They spent the rest of the evening planning rooms and discussing details, their conversation flowing as naturally as if they'd been married for years. When they finally went to bed, Amara lay awake thinking about how dramatically her life had changed. 6 months ago, she'd been dying on a sidewalk, alone and hopeless. Now she was planning a future with the love of her life and the daughter who had chosen her as family. The next morning, Grace bounded into the kitchen where James and Amara were making breakfast together. Daddy? Amara. I had the best dream. What did you dream about, sweetheart? Amara asked, flipping pancakes while James poured orange juice. We lived in a big house with a garden and there was a swing set and I had a little brother or sister to play with. James and Amara exchanged startled looks over Grace's head. That's quite a dream, James managed. It felt real, Grace said seriously. Like it was going to happen for real. Dreams like that are special, right? That's what you told me. Dreams like that are very special, Amara agreed, her voice slightly hoarse with emotion. Good, Grace said, settling into her chair with satisfaction. Because I really want a little brother or sister. And the house with the garden. And for you and Daddy to get married so you can be my real mommy forever. She said it so matter-of-factly that both adults had to laugh. You've got it all figured out, don't you, princess? James said, kissing the top of her head. Yeah. Now can I have extra syrup on my pancakes since I'm going to have such a good day? As they laughed and negotiated syrup ratios, Amara felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. This was what happiness looked like. Ordinary moments filled with extraordinary love. The house was finished 2 weeks ahead of schedule, a sprawling family home with every detail carefully planned for their life together. James had spared no expense, from the custom-built reading nook with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves to the gourmet kitchen with enough space for the whole family to cook together. Grace had been beside herself with excitement during the final walkthrough, racing from room to room claiming spaces for various activities. This is where I'll do homework, she announced from the built-in desk in the sunroom. And this is where we'll have tea parties, she called from the breakfast nook. And this is where my little brother or sister will sleep, she declared from the room next to hers. Slow down, sweetheart, Amara laughed, trying to keep up with the 5-year-old tornado. We need to move our things in first. When can we move in? Tomorrow? Next weekend, James promised. Mrs. Chin is organizing everything. As they explored their new home, James watched Amara's face light up with wonder at each carefully planned detail. The master suite had a reading area where she could curl up with her medical journals. The kitchen island was the perfect height for her to cook comfortably. Even the garden had been designed with her favorite flowers. James, this is too much, she said for the 100th time that day. It's exactly right, he corrected, pulling her close. This is our forever home, Amara. The place where we'll raise our children and grow old together. Our children? She raised an eyebrow at the plural. Grace and however many more we're blessed with. You really want more babies? With you? I want everything. That evening, James called his mother while Amara was helping Grace with a school project. Mom, I need your help with something important. Of course, darling. What is it? I'm going to propose to Amara, and I want to do it right. I want Grace to be part of it, and I want it to be somewhere meaningful. Oh, James, I'm so happy for you. She's wonderful and Grace adores her. I know. I just want the proposal to be perfect. She deserves something special. What were you thinking? The college campus where we first met. There's a garden there where we used to study together. I thought maybe we could go for a family picnic and then Grace could help with the proposal? Exactly. She's been asking when I'm going to make Amara her real mommy, officially. I think she'd love to be involved. They spent an hour planning every detail. James would arrange a casual family outing to his and Amara's alma mater under the pretense of showing Grace where her parents went to school. Grace would be prepared ahead of time with her special role in the proposal. The next morning, James approached Grace while she was eating breakfast and Amara was in the shower. Princess, can you keep a secret? Grace's eyes lit up with excitement. What kind of secret? The best kind. I'm going to ask Amara to marry me, and I need your help. Really? Grace bounced in her chair so enthusiastically that juice sloshed out of her cup. When? Oh. Can I pick out the ring? Slow down, James laughed, cleaning up the spilled juice. I already have the ring. But I need you to help me give it to her. How? James explained the plan, and Grace listened with the serious attention of someone being trusted with state secrets. So you want me to give her the flowers and then give her the ring box? That's right. And you'll ask her to be your real mommy forever and always. And then she'll say yes and we'll really be a family? That's the plan. What if she says no? The innocent question made James's heart skip a beat. Do you think she'll say no? Grace considered this seriously. No. She loves us too much to say no. And she already acts like my real mommy anyway. This will just make it official. Exactly. Daddy? Yes, princess? I'm really good at keeping secrets, but this one is making my tummy feel funny because I'm so excited. Just 2 more days and then we can tell her. 2 more days until she's really my mommy? 2 more days. That afternoon, however, their carefully laid plans hit an unexpected snag. Amara came home from the foundation office looking troubled, a letter clutched in her hand. What's wrong? James asked immediately, seeing her expression. I got a job offer today. A really good one. James felt his stomach drop. What kind of job offer? Head of Patient Advocacy at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. It's everything I've ever wanted professionally. Leading a department, implementing policies that could help thousands of families. That's wonderful, James managed, though his voice sounded hollow even to his own ears. It's in Philadelphia, James. The words hung between them like a death sentence. Philadelphia, he repeated numbly. I know it's complicated. I know we're building something here. But this is the kind of opportunity that comes once in a lifetime. Grace appeared in the kitchen doorway, still wearing her school uniform and carrying her backpack. Why does everyone look sad? Did something bad happen? No, sweetheart, Amara said quickly, forcing a smile. Just some grown-up work stuff. But Grace was perceptive beyond her years. Are you going away, Amara? The direct question hit like a physical blow. I don't know yet, Grace. I have to think about some things. But you can't go away. We're supposed to move into our new house together. And Daddy was going to. Grace stopped abruptly, remembering her promise to keep the proposal secret. Daddy was going to what? Amara asked. Nothing, Grace said quickly, but her eyes filled with tears. You just can't go away. You're my family. That night, after Grace was asleep, James and Amara sat on the balcony of the penthouse, both lost in their own thoughts. It's an incredible opportunity, James said finally. It is. You'd be crazy not to take it. Would I? Professionally speaking, yes. It's everything you've worked toward. And personally speaking? James was quiet for a long moment. Personally speaking, it would destroy me. And it would break Grace's heart. I know, Amara whispered. That's why I don't know what to do. What does your heart tell you? My heart tells me that my home is here with you and Grace. But my head tells me that I might never get another chance like this. So what are you going to do? I don't know. They want an answer by Monday. 3 days. 3 days to decide between the career of her dreams and the life she'd found with the man she loved and the daughter who had chosen her as family. 3 days until everything changed one way or another. Grace woke up Saturday morning with a plan. She'd been thinking all night about what she'd overheard the previous evening when Amara and Daddy were talking on the balcony. Amara might leave them. She might go to Philadelphia, Grace had practiced saying it, for a job. But Grace knew something the grown-ups had forgotten. Families stick together. She found Amara in the kitchen making coffee, still in her robe and looking sad. Good morning, sweetheart, Amara said, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Amara, can we talk? Like really talk the way you and Daddy do? Something in Grace's tone made Amara set down her coffee mug and give the little girl her full attention. Of course. What's on your mind? Grace climbed onto the stool at the kitchen island, her small legs swinging as she gathered her thoughts. Yesterday you said you might go away for a job. Amara's heart clenched. Grace, I haven't decided anything yet. But you're thinking about it. Yes, I'm thinking about it. Can I tell you what I think? I would love to hear what you think. Grace took a deep breath, the way her daddy did when he had to say something important for business. I think grown-ups sometimes forget what's really important because they think too much with their brains instead of their hearts. Amara blinked, surprised by the wisdom in such a young voice. I think, Grace continued, that jobs are nice but families are forever. And I think that if you go away you'll miss all the best parts of being my mommy. What are the best parts? Teaching me to braid hair and helping me when I have nightmares and reading me stories with funny voices. Taking me to school and picking me out clothes and being there when I lose my first tooth. Grace's voice got smaller. All the mommy things I've been waiting my whole life for. Tears sprang to Amara's eyes. Grace. And I think Daddy would be really, really sad if you went away. He smiles different when you're here. Like he's happy all the way down to his toes. He does. And he sings in the shower now, which he never did before. Mrs. Chin says that's because love makes people want to sing. Amara was crying openly now, this wise little girl's words reaching straight into her heart. But mostly, Grace said, sliding off the stool and moving to stand directly in front of Amara, I think you should stay because we need each other. You need us to love you every day and we need you to be our family. Oh, baby girl, Amara whispered, pulling Grace into her arms. I love you so much. I love you too, Mommy. The word hung between them, spoken with such natural ease that it took a moment for its significance to register. Mommy? Amara repeated softly. That's what you are, Grace said simply. Not just when Daddy makes it official with a wedding. Right now. You're my mommy right now. In that moment, sitting in the kitchen with this extraordinary child in her arms, Amara knew with absolute certainty what her answer would be. Grace, how would you feel if I told you that I'm not going to take the job in Philadelphia? Grace's face lit up like sunrise. Really? You're staying? I'm staying. This is my home. You and Daddy are my family and nothing is more important than that. Not even the really good job? Not even the really good job. Besides, I have the best job in the world right here. What job? Being your mommy. Grace threw her arms around Amara's neck, squeezing tight. This is the best day ever. It's about to get even better, James said from the doorway. Both Amara and Grace turned to find him standing there in jeans and a casual shirt, car keys in his hand and a mysterious smile on his face. We're going on a family adventure today. Where? Grace asked, bouncing with excitement. It's a surprise. But you might want to get dressed in something pretty. An hour later, they were driving through the countryside toward the college campus where James and Amara had first met. Grace chattered excitedly from the back seat while Amara enjoyed the scenery, unaware of the small velvet box hidden in James's jacket pocket. There it is. James pointed to the familiar brick buildings and tree-lined paths. That's where Daddy and Amara went to school. It's so pretty. Grace pressed her face to the window. Can we walk around? That's exactly what we're going to do. They spent the morning exploring the campus, James and Amara sharing memories while Grace collected pretty leaves and asked a million questions. Finally, James led them to a secluded garden with a fountain at its center, the same spot where he and Amara used to study together years ago. This is where I first knew I loved your daddy, Amara told Grace as they spread a blanket for their picnic. Really? Really? We were supposed to be studying for a history exam, but he kept making me laugh instead. I still make you laugh, James pointed out, unpacking sandwiches. That's true. After they ate, Grace excused herself to explore, though she'd been carefully coached on her real mission. She picked a bouquet of wildflowers from around the fountain, then returned to where James and Amara were sitting together on the blanket. Amara, Grace said solemnly, holding out the flowers. These are for you, because you're the most beautiful mommy in the whole world. Thank you, sweetheart. They're perfect. I have something else for you too, Grace said, producing the small velvet box from her pocket with the dramatic flair of a magician. This is from Daddy and me. Amara's breath caught as she recognized what Grace was holding. Grace, she whispered. James moved from beside her to kneel in front of the blanket, taking the ring box from his daughter's hands. Amara Washington, he began, his voice thick with emotion. 10 years ago, I lost the love of my life. 2 months ago, my daughter saved her life and brought her back to me. Grace moved to stand beside her father, both of them facing Amara with matching expressions of love and hope. We want to ask you something very important, James continued. Will you be my real mommy forever and always? Grace asked, the words they'd rehearsed coming out in a rush. Will you marry me? James added, opening the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. Will you be my wife and Grace's mother and make our family complete? Amara looked at the two people who had saved her life in every way that mattered. The man who had never stopped loving her and the little girl who had chosen her as family from the moment they met. Yes, she breathed, tears streaming down her face. Yes to all of it. Forever and always. James slipped the ring onto her finger while Grace cheered and danced around them. Then they were all hugging and crying and laughing at the same time. Are we really going to be a family now? Grace asked as if she still couldn't quite believe it. We already are a family, Amara assured her. This just makes it official. When's the wedding? Can I be the flower girl? Can we have cake? Slow down, princess, James laughed. We'll plan everything together. As the sun began to set over the campus, they packed up their picnic and headed home. Grace fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from excitement, while James and Amara drove in comfortable silence, both wearing matching smiles of complete contentment. Thank you, Amara said softly. For what? For never giving up on us. For finding me again. For letting Grace choose me as her family. Thank you for saying yes. To all of it. Did you really think I might say no? For about 5 minutes yesterday when you were talking about Philadelphia, I was terrified you might choose your career over us. Never, Amara said firmly. My career is important, but this is everything. You and Grace are my whole world now. 3 months later, on a beautiful autumn day, Amara Washington became Amara Mitchell in a small ceremony in their backyard. Grace served as maid of honor, flower girl, and ring bearer all rolled into one, stealing the show in her pink dress and matching tiara. As they exchanged vows under an archway of flowers Grace had helped plant, James promised to love and cherish Amara for the rest of their lives, and Amara promised to be the mother Grace deserved and the wife James had always dreamed of. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Grace cheered louder than anyone. Now we're really a family, she announced to the gathered guests. We really are, Amara agreed, scooping her daughter up for a hug while James wrapped them both in his arms. 2 years later, Grace got her wish for a little brother when baby Michael was born. She was the most devoted big sister imaginable, helping with feedings and diaper changes and constantly telling everyone who would listen that she had helped pick out her baby brother by praying for him every night. 5 years after that, when Grace was 10 and Michael was 3, baby Emma joined their family, completing the household with her infectious giggles and her tendency to follow Grace everywhere. And every night, when James tucked his children into bed and kissed his wife goodnight, he remembered the day Grace had found a dying woman on a sidewalk and saved not just her life, but all of their lives in the process. Because sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin not with a romantic meeting, but with the simple act of one person choosing to help another in their darkest moment. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that moment of kindness grows into a lifetime of love, laughter, and the kind of family that proves happy endings are real after all.